You did not choose the name. It was placed in the public record before you could read, in a building where the photographers had been outside for 36 hours before the doors opened, which is your first appearance in any archive. Someone else's arms, your face in a hospital blanket, the flashbulbs already going. You are a Windsor, which means you are also an institution, a constitutional arrangement, a public trust, and a variable in a narrative that was running before you arrived and will continue long after you are gone. The institution gives you everything. It belongs to you, not at all. What it costs to live inside it is what this is about. Part 1. The inheritance. You are 9 years old. You are in the back of a car on the Embankment in London on a Tuesday morning in July, and there are people pressed against the barriers 4 deep on both sides of the road, and they are there because you exist. Not because of what you have done. Not because of what you will do. Because you were born to a specific family in a specific building on a specific day. And this is what that costs in the currency of public attention. Your equerry, a man named Moresby, 53, Foreign Office background, who has been managing royal engagements for longer than you have been alive, leans forward from the front seat. "They'll want you to step out at the junction," he says. "A brief stop. Wave. A few words to the front of the crowd. We're 7 minutes ahead of schedule." You are 9 years old and 7 minutes ahead of schedule. "How long is a few words?" you ask. 2 minutes is generous," Moresby says. 1 is fine." The car stops. The door opens. The crowd is louder than you expected. Not hostile. Something warmer and stranger than hostile. A sound that has your name somewhere inside it, but is mostly just several hundred people responding at the same moment to the same stimulus. You wave. You say something to a woman at the front of the barrier who has a child on her shoulders. You do not remember what you say. You remember the child. A girl, perhaps 4, yellow coat. And the way she looks at you, the way 4-year-olds look at things they have been told, are important, and do not yet understand why. You get back in the car. Moresby says you did well. You look out the window at the crowd already dispersing, and you sit with something that has no name yet at 9 years old, but that you will spend the next 20 years learning to describe. It is not unhappiness. It is the specific sensation of understanding, for the first time, the shape of the life you are in. Not because you ask to be here, because this is what the name means in practice, in a car on the Embankment, on a Tuesday in July, at 9 years old. The rest of it is most of your life. Part 2. The protocol. You are 16 years old. You are sitting across a table in a private room at St. James's Palace on a Wednesday afternoon in November, and a woman named Calder, who manages the household ceremonial office, is explaining to you for the 3rd time in as many months the order in which you shake hands when you enter a room. The principle is always the same, she says. She has a printed diagram on the table. Highest precedence first. The moment you walk in, the room is already arranged for you. You move through it in the correct sequence. And if someone steps out of sequence, they won't, she says. Not dismissively, as a statement of historical fact. But if they do, you adjust without making the adjustment visible, and afterward someone has a quiet word. She straightens the diagram. The protocol exists so that no one has to think in the room. Thinking in the room is a problem. The protocol removes the problem. You understand this before you understand much else about the institution. Protocol is not tradition for its own sake. It is a system engineered across centuries to eliminate variables, which is something only a body that has managed public interactions at this scale for that long has had enough time to build correctly. Every handshake is decided. Every route is checked. Every room you enter has been briefed, arranged, cleared. The cost of eliminating variables at this scale is that your life becomes, structurally, a variable that has also been removed. There are rules that exist nowhere in writing. You learn these from watching. You learn what register of emotion is permitted in public, not because you are forbidden from feeling, but because the institution has learned, across several reigns, that public emotion is a variable with unpredictable consequences. You learn what your face should do at a state funeral and what it should not. You learn that the pause before you answer an interviewer's question is not hesitation, but calibration, measuring the distance between what you think and what is permitted to be said. You learn that some things are permitted and some are not, and that the line between them was drawn by people who were drawing it before you were born. Not because you are dishonest. Because the institution is older than honesty as a personal value, and it built its protocols before that distinction became relevant. You practice the sequence. You become very good at moving through a room correctly. Part 3. What they see. You are 22 years old. You are standing on a walkabout on a high street in the Midlands on a Thursday afternoon in March, and a woman in a yellow anorak is telling you that she has followed your family since your grandmother's coronation and that she feels like she knows you. She means this sincerely. You can tell from the quality of her attention. The way she looks at your face as though checking something against an internal image. She has an image of you assembled from decades of press coverage, from photographs, from broadcasts, from the particular narrative the institution generates simply by existing in public. She has been watching you your entire life. You have never met her before. You will not remember her name by morning. She will remember this conversation for the rest of hers. "You're exactly as I imagined," she says. "My mother had a photograph of your grandmother on the kitchen wall," she says. "My whole life, right there next to the clock." "What did you think of her?" you ask. "That she was remarkable," the woman says. "I suppose I think the same of all of you." "Thank you," you say, in the way that makes her feel seen, which is the only way available in this moment, rather than the way that is precisely true. This is the specific condition of being a Windsor. Everyone in the country carries a version of you assembled from the outside. The version is made from what has been photographed and printed and broadcast, the ceremonies, the walkabouts, the engagements, Moresby schedules, and Calder briefs. The actual person, the one who exists in rooms the cameras cannot enter, who has specific preferences and specific dreads and specific opinions that would never survive the calibration process. That person is private property that most of the country does not know exists. This is not a complaint. It is a description of what the name costs in the currency of self. You carry a public version that runs parallel to the actual one, and the public version is, by structural necessity, the only version most people will ever encounter. You smile for the woman's camera as you move on. The smile is correct, trained, warm, timed. It is not the only smile you have. Part 4. The people inside it. You are 28 years old. You are in a meeting room at Buckingham Palace on a Monday morning in September, and across the table are your parent, 2 senior members of the household, a communications secretary named Pell, and a solicitor you have not met before. The table is mahogany. There are printed agendas. The meeting is about you. Specifically, about an interview you gave 6 weeks ago, what the interview produced in the press, and what the household would like to happen next. "We're thinking a joint appearance," Pell says. "Something visible but measured. The gardens would work." You look at the agenda. The agenda has bullet points. Your parent does not look at you the way parents look at children in private rooms. They look at you the way the head of an organization looks at a member who has created a difficulty requiring management. You have known both versions of this look your whole life. They are not always easy to separate. "What did you want from the interview?" your parent asks. "To say something true," you say. A pause that is not hostile but careful. We all want that, your parent says. The question is which truths, and when, and with what framing around them. This is what love looks like inside an institution. It is real, and it operates within constraints. And the constraints are not imposed by the people in the room, but by the structure the room exists inside, which is something none of you chose and all of you are responsible for maintaining. You do not feel unloved. You feel the specific weight of being loved by people who are also, simultaneously, your institution, your employer, and your most complicated inheritance. The meeting ends. The joint appearance is scheduled for the following Thursday. You walk back through corridors that have been corridors since before your great-grandparents were born, and sit with the question you did not ask in the room: whether the two things, the love and the institution, can ever fully be separated, or you have never known one without the other. Part 5. The question of leaving. You are 31 years old. You are sitting in a small office at Kensington Palace on a Friday afternoon in February with an advisor named Galt, who has been in household service for 22 years, and you are discussing what a partial withdrawal from public duties would look like, practically and legally. Galt is careful. He has spent 2 decades in a role that requires precision about what is possible and what is not. The income arrangements don't change regardless of the level of public-facing activity, he says. That's a separate question from the duties question. I'm not asking about the income. I know. He sets down his pen. But the income is what the press will ask about, so we need to know what you want said. I want to be able to live without a communications briefing, you say. He looks at you for a long moment. That's not a structural option, he says. Not for a Windsor. This is the specific nature of leaving, or attempting to leave, which is something you have understood abstractly for years and understand concretely now, in this office, in February, with Galt setting down his pen. You can modify the terms. You can reduce the schedule, relocate, step back from specific engagements. But the name travels with every renegotiation. You can leave the role. You cannot leave the narrative. Not because the institution is cruel, because it is old enough to have outlasted every person who ever tried to renegotiate their terms with it. The narrative was running before you were born. It will continue regardless of any withdrawal you arrange. The people in yellow anoraks will photograph you regardless. The newspapers will use your name regardless, as serving, as reluctant, as absent, as returned, because the institution does not stop generating story about its members. That is one of the things it does. That is one of the things it has always done. Part 6. What it costs. You are 35 years old. You are sitting in a chair in a private apartment at Windsor Castle on a Sunday morning in April. Not a stateroom, a smaller set of rooms you have used since childhood. And you are trying to count what the institution has given and what it has taken. What it gave. The name. The access. A life of such complete material security that financial worry has never been available to you as a real experience. Rooms that are among the most beautiful in the world. The specific authority that allows you to make things happen, for causes, for institutions, for people, in ways no private individual could. A place in something permanent, which is a thing most people spend their lives searching for. What it took. The right to be unknown. The right to make a mistake without it becoming public record. The right to have a private self that stays private. The right to leave. Fully, if you choose. The right to be loved by people who are not also, structurally, your institution. You are not certain the accounting is wrong. You are not certain it was ever yours to agree to. Your friend Wren, from before the institution had fully shaped who you were becoming, calls on a Sunday afternoon. She does this every few weeks. She is one of perhaps 4 people in your life who speak to you without the calibration that proximity to the name produces in everyone else. "How are you?" she asks. "I'm trying to decide if the exchange was fair," you say. A pause. "Was it ever a negotiation?" "No," you say. "Then fair isn't the right frame," she says. "It's just what it is." You think about this for the rest of the afternoon. Not because you disagree, because she is right. And being right about it does not change the weight of it, and the weight is the thing you have been carrying since a Tuesday morning in July on the Embankment at 9 years old, when you watched a crowd disperse and understood for the first time that the name is not yours. You hold it in trust for something older than you and larger than you and entirely indifferent to what it costs you personally to carry it. That is the cost, and depending on the hour, the comfort. Somewhere tonight, someone is going to sleep in a house where no one outside of the people who chose to learn it knows their name. They will wake up tomorrow and be entirely their own.